Okay, looks like we're live now. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you for our first ever Nature Chatters. Today's topic is the scoop on poop. My name is Lyndzee, and today our naturalist will be answering your questions, well, about poop, of course. But first, we have a couple of things to go over before we get started. Today's program is, as you guessed it, all about poop, and you're probably going to be hearing that word among a few others describing the stuff throughout today's program, the gross and the good that come with it. If at any point you have a question, just pop it into the chat on our YouTube, and one of these three brilliant naturalists will answer it for you. This program will be recorded and available for rewatching or sharing on our YouTube channel, and expect this one to last about 30 minutes or so. Each person presenting today has picked their favorite thing about poop to talk about, and we'll answer some questions that have already been submitted by you and answer all the ones that you submit in our YouTube chat. So we'll also have a new Nature Chatters program every Friday this semester starting at 10 a.m. and you can find the live stream on our YouTube, which is where we ask that you comment all your questions, in case we're also streaming it on Facebook so we can kind of keep everything lumped together. A complete schedule of topics schedule of topics can be found at the link that I will post in the chat or on our website, and we encourage you to submit your questions before the live event so our staff can give you a shout out and make sure that you get the best possible answer that we can give you. And the next Nature Chatter is on October the 2nd, and it's all about animal census. So we really hope you can join us for that. And I will be posting the link for that complete schedule right here in the chat. And we encourage you to check that one out. But with that, I'm going to let the three naturalists who will be doing the poop discussions today introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Deb, and welcome to the Great Plains Nature Center. We hope you enjoy today's program.
Hey everybody, I'm Alan. I'm very excited to talk to you about poop today, and yeah, let's get into it.
Hi everyone, my name is Alicia, and it is a lot of fun for me to get to talk about this topic, so I hope that you guys have fun today too.
Sorry, forgot to take myself off mute. So to start us off, each one of our naturalists has picked one of their favorite things to talk about. And we're going to start with Deb this morning, who introduced herself first. Deb, what got you interested in poop?
In poop? Well, one of my first introductions to the information was preparing a program on the different species of turkey in the state of Kansas. And while I could go into all of that, what was really kind of interesting is that you can tell the difference between a male turkey's poop and a female turkey's poop. And maybe Rachel could pull up that picture of the difference between the two so we can see them. I'll wait till it's available. Can they see it now, Rachel? Oh, maybe not. It's coming. I know you can't wait to see this poop. Almost there. There it is. So on the my left is a picture of a gobbler, or a male poop, pile of poop, I guess you would say. And what scientists as well as hunters might have noticed over the years is that the male species is kind of a long, elongated shape, and sometimes in the shape of a J. And then if you look at the hen's pile of poop, it's more rounded, I guess, and sometimes it will look more like a pile than the gobbler will. As far as I know, that is the only species of animal that you can specifically determine a male or a female pile of poop to indicate which animal it is. So if you're a hunter, maybe you'd be walking along the trail looking for a good gobbler to shoot during the turkey season, and maybe you'd come across this scat poop many other terms that you can use, and it would help you to know that you're after the right animal. Why does it happen is kind of interesting. They hole that the poop comes out of the body through, or the anatomy of each of these animals is just a little bit different. And as the poop is expelled from the body, it is cut off, I guess, in different aspects as the muscles around the opening work. So that's how it comes out differently. Also in the male, some of the male organs get in the way of the poop coming out in a pile, and that's why it comes out in the J shape. So there you have it. That's turkey poop.
Wow, we've already only been at this for 10 minutes and I've learned so much. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing your curiosity about poop, Deb. I'm going to have Alan, what gets you excited about poop?
Well, it's always kind of cool to see whenever, an animal decides to leave you a little bit of a present when you're out taking a walk on the trail. It's kind of a mystery, right? Like what left it there? What was it doing? What's it been eating? Is it healthy? There's a lot of information that you can find in poop. But one of the big questions I had was about, do animals eat their own poop? Like, I mean, some of us, especially if you have a dog at home, you've probably seen them try this from time to time. Yeah, I was kind of curious, do they eat their own poop? And that led into a lot of other questions like, why would they do it? Do lots of other animals eat their own poop? What's the point of doing that? Yeah, so a lot of other questions there. So if we look here, I've got a few pictures of animals that have some pretty harsh diets. So, oh yeah, let's go to the next slide there too. Sorry. Yeah, these are all my questions. Okay, so here's an animal with a pretty harsh diet. It's called a bearded vulture, and they live in Asia. You won't find them in the Great Plains. You'll find other kinds of vultures here in Kansas, but this is a bearded vulture, and what it eats is bones. Okay, so if we look at that, image, you can see right there, it's swallowing what looks like a cattle bone or a deer bone. It's eating the whole thing, okay? And that's going right into their stomach. Another animal that has like a really harsh diet would be a termite, okay? Their diet consists entirely of wood. So they would eat, trees and logs, or even try to eat your house, right? So they have a really, really tough diet too. The way that they're able to digest those things is because they have a very strong stomach, okay? Their stomach acids are so powerful and so acidic that they can break down all sorts of things. They can break down bones really, really easily, break down wood really easily. Not all animals have those nice strong stomachs though, okay? They have to kind of adjust in order to get all the nutrition they can out of a really tough diet. So one example of that would be a black-tailed jackrabbit, okay? And this is the term that we have for these animals in general is a coprophage. So that's any animal that eats its own poop. Because this is so common in nature, there's actually an entire word for this whole group of animals, right? Coprophages. They're the animals that eat their own poop. I'm looking at our possum is right next to me here, and she's sniffing around her own litter box right now because she's looking for something to eat. Okay, so it's really, really common in nature. Let's go to our next slide here. This is a black-tailed jackrabbit, and Rachel, if you could play that video, we'll kind of see how it moves around. So this is an animal that you can find here in Kansas. They are mostly out west because they kind of like it where it's a little bit drier climate. And this one, you can see they're munching on some grass. That's their entirety of their diet, is really dry grasses out in the plains. So they actually, since their diet is all plants, okay, and plant material is actually pretty tough for mammals to digest. It's made of something called cellulose that our bodies can't break down very easily. So for rabbits, sometimes it takes a whole second trip through the digestive system. If you look at that next page, they actually have two kinds of poop. Okay, so they will poop something out called cecal pellets, which are softer, and those are the ones that aren't fully digested yet. So they'll actually eat those soft poop pellets again, and then they'll go through and get all the nutrition that they missed the first time. And then the second time it comes out in a harder, drier pellet that doesn't have a lot of water in it, called fecal matter, and that's just the regular poop you'd expect to find. So it's just because their system can't break it down fast enough the first time around that they have to eat it again. Let's take a quick look at the next one here. All right, and another weird example of animals eating poop would be koala bears. So, you know, koala bears, they're cute, they're cuddly, but they have a really specific diet of something called eucalyptus leaves. And in order to break down that diet, okay, they have to have really special bacteria in their stomach because it's the only kind of plant they eat. So they have to find a way to transfer that bacteria to their young, to their joeys. And the way they do that is by consuming fecal pap. Okay, so fecal pap is basically a sticky substance that will be on the butt of the mother koala that the baby koala will have to eat. Okay, and they'll eat that in order to get that healthy bacteria in their system, so they too can grow up to eat leaves just like their parents. So a lot of weird ways that animals eat poop. They have a lot of uses for it in the natural world. And that was the question that I was most curious about.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that with us, Alan. Did you guys know that there's an entire museum out there that focuses only on poop? Yeah, it's true. Seriously, it's called the National Poo Museum, and it's located in Sandown, England, I believe. And I don't know about you guys, but I really want to go there. Just a reminder for those of you who are joining our live stream this morning, if you have any questions at all, just pop them in the YouTube chat and we will answer them. And a huge shout out to Earhart for joining us this morning and everybody else who's here. But with that, I want to know what got Alicia interested in poop. So Alicia, the floor is yours.
All right, well, thank you, Lyndzee. So what got me most interested in poop was actually the things that I like to look at the most, which are the really small organisms, which tend to be things like insects. So if Rachel actually wants to queue up, I have a couple of videos because they're from different areas throughout Kansas and throughout the Midwest. I have some video, and Rachel, definitely make sure you have that video muted because there's a lot of conversation and exclamations going on in the background and it's very loud. So if you want to play these are dung beetles and they are rolling poop. So we have several different types of dung beetles. Most people recognize them as scarabs. They go all the way back to being really kind of like a lucky symbol or revered symbol in Egypt. They're found worldwide. You can find scarabs in Africa, you can find them in Asia, you can find them all throughout North America. These particular ones here that are rolling dung or poop are actually, these I found in Valley Center just a little bit ago. So they're right in my own backyard. So the male actually and the female both sometimes will participate, but dung beetles are the only ones. They fascinate me because they're the only ones that actually will move poop. So there are other animals, like Alan mentioned, that eat poop, and these guys do too. They eat dung or manure, depending on what animal actually had the excrement. So these guys, they're the only ones that actually move it very, very far away. So this is a male that's moving some horse dung. This was in Texas. So you can tell they do all kinds of different landscapes, all kinds of different environments. And there's different types of dung beetles. So all of them, they will eat dung for nutrition. That's a very common thing. In particular, they like to have, frequently they go to herbivores because there's more nutrients because it's not as digested. There's lots of undigested plant matter in there as well. And even some will specialize on what kind of dung. Both of these actually were from horses. So there's a lot of grass you can kind of see in it as well. But fresh is good. They don't typically like dried out. So for instance, one study done in Africa, elephants, as you can imagine, have a lot of dung that they do. As soon as elephant went to the bathroom, they had, within 15 minutes, they had over 4,000 dung beetles on that. So they're very efficient at moving poop around and spreading it on all places. But the reason that they roll those balls is because that's where they will lay their eggs and the babies will develop. So the babies eat the poop, the adults eat the poop. It provides a house, a home, a food source. So they kind of do all of it. But the fun thing that I also found out is dung beetles, even though they're probably the easiest ones to see moving poop around, they're not the only ones. There are actually some caterpillar larvae from like skipper butterflies. There's one that will actually be able to shoot its poop very, very far away. And most caterpillars do that too, because poop is an advertisement. It says, I was here. Most animals, they pick a spot, they go to the bathroom, and it's usually pretty close to where they are. But for those caterpillars, they'll actually shoot poop like 5 feet away from where they are, which for us is crazy. That would be the equivalent of us being able to fling it like 200 and some feet. So insects have a lot of really cool stuff. And that's what really got me excited in poop, was just the way that they'll move this around. They make these perfect little spherical balls. It's not just that we know there was something there, it's the fact that other animals, and especially insects, will move it and use it. So that's what got me excited.
That is so fascinating.
Oh, and that's a picture of caterpillar poop, by the way. That's really, really cool.
It's beautiful. Who knew poop could be so symmetrical? Maybe that's not quite the word that I want to use there, but it's a lovely piece of poop. Now we have some submitted questions from local students, and this one, or actually I have 2 questions here, and I think Alicia is going to answer these. These questions are from Mrs. Pierce's class over at Earhart Elementary, and the first question is, how can you tell the difference between dinosaur scat and a rock, and how do you know where to look for it?
Oh, those are great questions. So anytime we have anything from an animal that's a very long time ago, like dinosaurs, it's going to become fossilized. So what we're looking at is fossils, and those are trace fossils. So something that, like a dinosaur fossil of poop, they have a very special name. They're called coprolites. So we have one here. And you can tell it looks like I'm holding this large thing of scat. It's got ridges, it's got little, you can see the kind of the swirls. And this is basically, it's technically a rock. All fossils are technically rocks. And how you tell the difference between a coprolite and there's something called a pseudocoprolite, which looks like fossilized poop, but it's not. It's very, very difficult. Actually, a lot of fossils that people have found, originally they thought they were real coprolites, but they turned out to be pseudocoprolites. It can be very deceptive. So pretty much you have to be an expert in the field to be able to tell the difference. And the fun part is these do tell, like regular poop does for us, they do tell diet. So a lot of times if there's an herbivore dinosaur, you will still find remains of things within that coprolite. And of course, the best place always to look for fossils is the types of sedimentary rock that they're usually found in. So things like limestone and shale. Around here, we won't have very many dinosaur fossils. We mostly have an oceanic environment from that time period. And unfortunately, fish poop does not fossilize very well. But those were wonderful questions.
Completely agree with you. Alan, I think these questions might be good for you. Jackson Elementary wants to know, what foods do animals eat that make them poop? And do animals eat their own poop for nutrients? So with that question, I thought you'd be the perfect person.
Sure, that's an awesome question. Thank you, Jackson Elementary. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about how lots of animals eat their own poop for nutrients. It's really very common. You know, lots of rodents, raccoons, coyotes, all sorts of things will eat their own poop. Rabbits and hares, they do it too. Lots of different kinds of animals do that. But as far as animals eating something to make them poop, yeah, that's actually pretty common as well, right? Even animals that are, exclusively meat eaters, like cats, okay, they will from time to time go find a plant to chew on because they need something that their system can't digest in order to help the digestive process, to help move things through their system a little bit easier. We do that too, actually. If you ever looked at the back of like the nutrition facts on a label of on a food label, you'll see something on there that's called dietary fiber. And that's actually stuff that our system doesn't really digest easily. So it's just to help move things through our bodies. If you were to just only be eating things like meat and cheese and never eat a vegetable, you'd have a really tough time going to the bathroom eventually. So animals absolutely look for things to help, like grasses and plants, to help move their digestive system. Sometimes they'll eat things that actually act a little bit like laxatives. A really good example of this would be a fruit that's ripening on the trees right now here in Kansas called persimmons. And they're a very sweet, tasty fruit. They're full of seeds. And when other animals eat them, when they get ripe, they'll get eaten by coyotes, raccoons, possums, all sorts of stuff. And after they start eating those persimmons, you'll see all over the trail, there will be piles and piles of poop full of persimmon seeds because it just runs straight through them. It's tasty, but yeah, it doesn't stay in their system very long, it seems like, because it works a little bit like a laxative. So some animals also do that as well. They need a lot of different things in their diet to help keep things regular, right? So yeah, that's a great question from Jackson Elementary. Thank you.
And those were really great answers. So thank you, Alan. We've got a couple more questions that have been submitted. And Deb, this question is from Gloria. And Gloria asks, what determines the shape of poop?
Well, I kind of already talked about that when I mentioned about the difference between male and female in turkeys, even though they're the only species of animal that I found specific to having different shaped poop. But it has to do with perhaps the length of the intestine could be one reason that the poop would be different shape. Like, for instance, a deer's intestine is 27 feet long. Can you imagine all of that curled up inside their abdomen, their stomach area? Ours, on the other hand, is pretty long too. Ours is about 20 feet long. So that's a lot of storage space for poop. But as a deer expels the poop, most of you recognize a deer poop as being some small pellet-like shape. And as they expel it, and I'm going to hold my hands up here, let's say that this is the opening where it's coming out, and they have a muscular structure around that hole. And as the poop comes out, it squeezes, drop, squeeze, drop, and that's why it comes out in those pellet shapes. Alicia also pointed out another really interesting critter to me, the wombat. The wombat expels poop in the shape of cubes. Can you imagine putting that out the rear end? But anyway, it's probably there's some different shaped poop there that Rachel has put up, but you can tell that they can be in all different kinds of shape. Again, it has a lot to do with the shape of the intestine and the muscular structure around the sphincter or the opening where the poop is expelled. So I think I answered that question.
Perfect, thank you. And then we have one more for you, Deb. This question is from Grace. Why do some things get digested more than others?
Well, Alan kind of already talked about this a little bit. Oh, sorry, I didn't get one of those phones unplugged. I've got two in my office. But Alan talked a little bit about it already when he mentioned the word cellulose. So, when I looked at this question first, what immediately came to my mind may not be true for any of the rest of you because I've had children. And one of the things that you notice in poop from a human is when they've eaten corn. And you will see actually the kernels of corn in the poop. And that is because it has a cellulose covering to the from the plant that helps to protect the kernel of corn, and it's not easily digested, or the acids in your stomach cannot break down that cellulose. In other animals, like Alan talked about the persimmons right now, and the animals that will eat that, and you'll actually see the seeds in the poop. The seed has a special covering on it to protect itself, so that it is actually depending on the animals that eat it to help them with seed dispersal, so that new plants can grow. And if the seed covering wasn't hard and didn't protect the seed and it broke it down, then we wouldn't have new plants growing in different places. So I think I answered that one as well. Great question. It made fun memories.
Awesome. Okay, I think we have one more question, and this one is for Alicia. Why does my cat poop in a box?
That's a really good question. And actually, a lot of animals have dedicated latrines or bathroom sites. So cats are just one, and they prefer to also bury theirs because sometimes they want to advertise, and sometimes they want to make sure that nothing else around them knows that they're there. So having a space also that you provided where they're able to bury their defecation, that is a good thing. That's frequently why they use it as well. But raccoons are one animal, for instance, that they have like a latrine area that they communally, all raccoons will go and they'll poop there. There is actually some really fun things in like Africa where there's different species that are both carnivores and herbivores that will have a site where everybody goes to the bathroom. So it's like you'll find both like and gazelles and hyenas, they're all using the same area. So it's actually pretty common in the animal kingdom because, as I said, there's two reasons to go to the bathroom. You either hide it because you don't want anybody to know where you are, see the caterpillar larvae flinging poop way away from them, or insect frass in that case, or they want to advertise where they are. So sometimes large predators will be advertising to each other. So things like coyotes or bears will leave theirs lying around as kind of a marker that says, hey, here's my territory, kind of like Deb mentioned with wombats. They all mark their territory with their poo. So there's two different things, but that's why cats will use a litter box, is they're small and they would like to hide that they are there.
Very sneaky, just like a cat, I guess. Okay, we do have a couple more questions before we wrap things up here. Alan, would you care to shed some light on why poops might be different colors?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's a good question. There's it's probably something you may have noticed for yourself. Sometimes things come out in different shades. And we see that a lot in the animal world too, right? Animal poops tend to be all sorts of different colors. A lot of that has to do with diet. Okay, so you might notice goose poop tends to be green because they tend to be eating a lot of grass and aquatic plants and things like that. You might notice if there are mulberries on the trees, you might see a lot of purple bird poop because that's what they're eating, right? It's kind of irresistible to them. So you see a lot of different shades. Anything we eat can change our own the color of our own poop. If you don't believe me, you could try eating a lot of beets and see what happens after that. You might be pretty surprised. But it also sometimes has to do with the chemicals going on in the animal's body. You might notice a lot of the times that bird poop looks white, and snake poop does as well to an extent. Also has some white in it. What causes that is because it's actually a different chemical that they're excreting. So when we pee, right, our pee color is usually some shade of yellow. Okay, it might be really clear, it might be really dark if we're not very hydrated. But for birds and snakes, it tends to be white. Okay, that white part is actually something called uric acid. Okay, it's like their pee. It's just really, really concentrated. It has so little water in it that its chemical composition actually has to change. So it's just a totally different compound than what we pee out when we go to the bathroom. So that's why bird poop, snake poop, a lot of others look white. It's because of that uric acid. acid inside of it. Yeah, so that's a really cool question. Yeah, very good, very curious mind there.
I wanted to add just a little bit to that. I also found some information that indicated that temperature will determine maybe some of the color of the poop as well. As the temperature changes outdoors, animals, as I think Alan was talking about, different diet, they'll change their diet depending on what's available to eat at that time of year. So temperature and what is available to eat can also determine the color of the poop.
Fascinating. I didn't know that. Thank you for teaching me something new today, Deb. We do have one last question. And Deb, I'm going to have you answer this one, and then we'll do our outro and say goodbye to all of our friends who have joined us today. Deb, is an owl pellet considered poop?
Well, you would think it would be, but actually, to me, it isn't. It is regurgitated remains of the animal that they've eaten, like their feathers or their, it could be their fur, more likely, bones, those kinds of things. And it hasn't actually made its way through the digestive system of the body. And Alan just earlier talked about the color of the poop in birds in particular. You'll see white and you'll see another color in there, as well as with snakes. And so it's just, and I guess the opening that it comes out of too makes a little bit of different, or the orifice, it comes out of their mouth rather than their rear end. So that might make the difference in whether you would consider it poop or not.
Yeah, those are some pretty fascinating distinctions. Who knew that there were so many different things involving poop? Just a quick heads up to all the students and teachers out there watching. Our next Nature Chatters is on October the 2nd at 10 a.m. again, and it's all about animal senses. If you know other teachers or homeschoolers or anybody who might be interested in attending future programs like this one, you can find a full schedule on our website, and I shared that link in the YouTube chat. I'll pop it back in there again. And you can also find the form to pre-submit your questions for any of the future Nature Chatters so that we, naturalists, can have the best possible answer that we can give you. And a reminder that all of the Nature Chatter programs are recorded and available to view later. So if you can't make it to the live program, you can just pop on and hear your answers questions at any time. And you can share those recorded videos with anybody that you'd like. I'd like to give a shout out to Rachel Roth, who ran our tech today, and she's been phenomenal at helping us through this program. Also, Deb, Alan, and Alicia, who answered all of your questions. Again, I'm Lyndzee. I was your host today, and I hope you enjoyed today's program. Now get out there and tell someone a new poop fact that you learned today. And thanks, and have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.